Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. Here we are, Alex Navarro.
Yes, here I am.
Here we are. We're here.
Rocky like a hurricane.
Inside our glass cube. Just imagine the audience has been sitting there on a little couch, waiting for us to. They don't know what's going to happen. They've just been sitting there waiting, maybe with a cup of coffee. Will we show up or will we not? But we are here. That's a Twin Peaks season 3 reference for all of you keeping up. Brad Shoemaker.
Heyo.
That's a Twin Peaks reference.
Hi-yo.
Brad Cooper line.
Is what I thought I was going to get from you at the beginning.
A heyo.
That voice you were laying down, I just thought a heyo was imminent for some reason.
Sure, I'll drop a heyo. I don't need to be prompted.
There was
Heyo.
a particular verve to that intro.
Yeah.
That
Vervy, that's me.
Reminded me of a goofball suburban dad
Heyo,
type
that's
of
me.
sitcom persona, which I'm sure you're well acquainted with.
Just burst through a door and scream heyo.
Yeah.
Wacky neighbor dad. That's you, Vinny.
Mowing the lawn with a cup of coffee in his hand. Heyo.
Heyo.
Heyo, heyo.
Norm.
Giving advice over a fence. That's me. Just kicking soccer balls around.
Could you like mow the yard with a beer hat on?
One could.
Yeah.
It's your property. It's still the United States of America.
For now.
You can mow the lawn with a beer hat on if you want. They can't take that away. I haven't taken that away yet, Brad. Haven't taken that away yet.
Oh, it's coming. They're coming for your beer hat.
I didn't realize this was this kind of show now.
Thanks, Biden. Biden's coming for your beer hat. Pretty soon
They're
you won't be able to.
Fuddruckers. They're taking your beer hats. America, it is forfeit.
It's a very complicated time. Sometimes I can't tell when you're joking if you say things like they're closing Fuddruckers.
They're closing Fuddruckers. A bunch of Fuddruckers are closing, apparently. I don't know if the entire chain is, but there's also some video of some like right-wing mouthpiece on the internet saying the words again. No, I don't think I've ever heard a person say to me ever, I love Fuddruckers.
Man, they're closing Fuddruckers. Where am I going to play Sunset Riders?
I don't know if they're actually closing Fuddruckers. This might just be another outrage machine bullshit thing, but
Fuddruckers was always a fun name to say.
Yeah.
Look, I'd go to Fuddruckers. Fuddruckers is basically a Dave and Buster's, right?
I don't even think it's as much of an arcade.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh.
The one near us was not near us, so I only went 2 or 3 times. But I remember only like 3 or 4 arcade machines tops there.
Oh, okay.
I think the reputation was more like it's a burger place where you can get anything you want on your burger.
Oh,
wasn't
anything?
that it?
Anything?
Wasn't it just like, hey, they got a ton of toppings and you can just ask for whatever?
And that's what killed him.
And a lot of their clientele, maybe.
Yeah, broke the bank.
Yeah, I'll take a filet mignon on top of my burger, please. Well, we said anything. I want a whole cow. No, a whole cow.
No, don't kill it. I just want it alive on a bun.
This is how I smuggle cows.
I just want to hang out with it.
I want to play Sunset Riders with this cow. Well, I did it, folks. Speaking
of... You closed Fuddruckers?
I did it. I finally... Right. None of that den of iniquity.
Nice.
Another bastion of sin closed. Fuddruckers. No, I got that RetroTINK came. That RetroTINK 4K came.
You funded your purchase of a RetroTINK 4K with a leveraged buyout of Fuddruckers?
Yes, I am. Welcome to Vane Capital. That's me, Vinny's Capital, and I bought Fuddruckers. We're gonna turn it around. I'm gonna sell it. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be employee owned. It's gonna be It's gonna be a positive venture or what are they? Not venture capital. What are those?
No, it's private equity.
Private equity.
Yeah. Vulture capital.
Vulture capital.
Also
that's
that
common term.
No, I got the RetroTINK 4K and I did the thing where I plugged it in and was like, whoa, this is for people who are way into things like pixel phase and offsets and
phosphor decay.
All the settings that I'm like, I'll go through them and I'll look through them and I'm going to look them up. But this is intense. This is for people.
Starting to understand why this is a slightly pricey device.
This is for people who are serious about pixel accuracy on their screen.
Yeah.
But again, you're talking to a person who is not the greatest discerner of pixel accuracy, nor do I see colors that accurately? So I will say, I think it looked extremely nice on my monitor in 1080p, not even 4K.
We should say, for people who don't know, the RetroTINK 4K is the latest in the line of very nice high-end analog video scalers.
Yes.
Meaning you can plug old analog consoles into it and play them on your digital television.
So here's how I'm using it the way God intended, plugging a digital device into its HDMI port and
Also
only outputting
valid.
at 1080p.
That's also valid.
Yeah. Into a tiny little monitor that plays at 1080p. No,
Yeah.
I haven't put it on the 4K TV yet, and I haven't plugged anything analog into it. I mostly plugged the Mister into it and loaded up a bunch of SNES stuff.
That is also a super valid use of that thing, because the Mister obviously can't do 4K.
Yeah.
And then the RetroTINK does way better, as you said, better scan lines, better phosphor emulation than the Mister can.
It looks... I mostly went down the route of make this look as crisp and sharp and nice as possible and vibrant, and I think it did. Now that could just be when you get your thing and you justify your purchase because you feel like you spent a lot of money on it. And I'm like, wow, this looks fantastic.
You don't feel like you spent a lot of money on it, Vinny. You did spend a lot of money on it. We all did.
And so it could just be justifying.
Okay, well, you and I did.
Brad, you've got in your possession the 5, right?
I have a 5X Pro, which is the previous 1080p model.
So the thing that it can't do, obviously, is it cannot take which is, I think, what's happening, just to not to get too in the weeds, but what's happening on other scenes is it is not going to do the thing where you take that N64 game and output the render resolution of the N64 game at 4K. It's not rendering the vertices of
it's just
it's just upscaling.
Taking the video output.
Yeah, we're not
doing math on it.
Yes, so it's not going to be that thing of like here's what Ocarina of Time would look like at 8K.
No,
this is not.
Although that you can also have easily these days.
Yeah,
right. That's what I'm saying. That's the other things that are going on. But this, First, I was really scared because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's not working. I plugged it in. It's one of those devices that runs off of 5 volts, 2 amps, so it's a USB into a powered USB thing. And I was like, oh man, I really hate when they do this because now I feel like the onus is on me to find a power supply that matches it, which I have plenty of, but I'm always worried. But I plugged it in and it didn't go on. And I realized in my chain of stuff I use for work where I put the mister through, the HDMI switcher doesn't actually do 4K. So it was defaulting out at 4K and it doesn't do it. So I had to finally bypass it. But then it comes with a big remote. And I'm going to say, the people who made this remote know what they're doing. There's just a damn 1080p button right on there on the remote. It's just got all the resolutions right on the remote. Though it doesn't have the direct inputs on the remote. You still have to hit an input toggle to get to the inputs. But you can get your picture out there if your resolution all of a sudden changes weird and you're like, okay. I don't know, I dig it so far. But then it sent me down the other rabbit hole of like, okay, now I'm going to go update my mister and go make sure everything's good on there. Do I do update or do I update all? Is the update deprecated? Update all.
Always.
And then, I think you do the same thing, Brad. I'm pretty sure because I borrowed some of your scripts. You have your stuff on a network share, so you have to have your CIFs mounted. I started running to this permissions thing where I was like, oh my God, it can't write to this database file because it's logging in as the wrong user on this thing and it's not logging in here. It's not. And then I was like, oh, right, these permissions on here, they have is it ALC?
ACLs.
ACLs on
access
them.
Control lists or ACLs, some people would say.
The ACLs getting my hackles up because they were a pain in the butt to change. And then TrueNAS doesn't use POSIX.
The portable operating system specification.
No, it uses some other version of
God, do not.
And then I was like, oh my gosh, these are a nightmare to change. You have to do and then I was like, okay, well, maybe I could just add the root user on the mister into a group that has permission to write there. I'll go the other way around. And then I don't know if you ever looked at what build the mister is using, but it's using some bare bones based Linux build.
Oh yeah, it's the Linux on the mister was made from scratch by.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, that's not even happening here. It doesn't even have change user on here or anything. Yeah. And it was like, oh, you have to go into a table and redo the table. And I was like, all right, here's what I'm going to try first. Let me just delete the file and see if the Mister will write a new file with its own with the right permissions. And that's after about an hour, that totally worked. It just wrote the database file again with the proper permissions.
File sharing permissions are a whole thing. If you switch to TrueNAS scale from core, you can use POSIX ACLs. I can tell you that.
Oh, okay.
I know this is exactly what people come to this podcast for.
Good to know. Well, look,
it's a whole fight. The fight between POSIX and NFS v4 ACLs is a whole thing.
I didn't know. I walked right into the gunfire.
If I may play the audience surrogate here for a moment. Every time we start talking about stuff related to both the Mister and the and your various NASs, I always start thinking to myself, man, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time for me to invest in a Mister. Maybe it's time to start building that NAS. Then as soon as you get about a minute and a half roughly into discussing the various things that go on when you are running those things, I start thinking to myself, do I have what it takes?
So got it. This is the absolute worst time to get into the Mister because those clones are coming rapidly.
Oh, I'm not going to do it until that happens. I know that. I know that much.
I'm starting to wonder, the dude, Taki Udon is his name online, the dude who is spearheading that effort, he's posting so much about so many different devices all at once that I'm like, is any of this real? How could you possibly be putting out 4 different devices this year?
Do we have a Telerico situation going on here?
And one of them is a handheld, and you're saying it's going to cost like $150 or less? Like what?
And so they're all like DE10 clones?
Yeah, so it's all based on the chip that makes the Mister go, but just the chip, like they're doing their own boards for it, which is the big innovation. I don't think we talked about it on here that much. The big thing was like he found a way to source those chips cheaply, which previously you had to buy that Intel subsidized board, which is pretty reasonably expensive. Now he's able to just get the chips from the supplier, so they can just design boards around that chip directly. So there's going to be like 3 different... So there's a clone board that's going to be just like the DE10, essentially, like with some minor quality of life improvements. Then there's going to be a flagship console device.
Whoa.
Meaning like in a nice case that goes under your TV with like every bell and whistle you can possibly think of built into it. And a big feature that he's teasing is like, we have a super top secret feature in this that no other Mister hardware has. And I was actually going to tell you what that is because I think that it ties into your scalar stuff. Then there's going to be a handheld and then 2 more like lower price consoles, one of which is going to have a cartridge slot on it so you can play original cartridges.
Oh, that's cool.
And he says all of these are coming out this year, which...
That seems impossible.
I'll believe it when I see it. He does live in... He and his company are both in China, so... He does have like much easier access to parts suppliers and manufacturing than you would over here, so I'm sure that's speeding things up a lot, but...
But that's the thing, though, is that as much as, that access seems like it would probably give him an advantage, nobody is spinning up products and like hardware at this scale right now at that level. Like nobody is releasing 5 different electronic things, let alone hobbyist electronic things like this in a single year. You
say that, but then look at any one like no-name electronics manufacturer out of like Shenzhen and like look at the products they put out. Like they ship a lot of products.
But are they good is the thing.
Well, that remains to be seen.
There's a lot of like there's a lot of small integrated like microcomputer stuff coming out that is like
there's
like
a lot
I
of
talked
cool
about
shit.
that Meshtastic stuff and all those little like boards, like little like Arduino projects that use like or like the NAT. There are tons of them out there. I don't know if they're good or not, but
like tiny little like x86 single board computers for like $150 $200. They're extremely fast. I got kind of down the rabbit hole of earbuds, like high-end like Shenzhen earbuds a couple years ago. Some very nice, very cheap headphones coming out of there now.
I did realize, or I had this thought as I've recently bought a couple, I think I mentioned this on the Ramblecast, I bought a couple of things to build those Meshtastic radio network devices, and some of them range from $20 and they go up to in the hundreds if you want to get into bigger stuff. But I realized like our cyberpunk future is going to be scavenging for these particular chips that are like, oh, is that a Mister there? I can build your water I can build your water purifier chip from the or like the cyberpunk scavenging through all of these ARM chips to find the right one to put on a board for these microcontrollers and microcomputers. That's what it's going to be, I think, versus people soldering their own. That they're going to be, finding piles of them.
That's kind of our cyberpunk present already. Like all like the SD-RAM modules that go into the Mister, those are all scavenged out of like 25-year-old computers.
There you go.
Like the PCB is new. that they put the RAM on, but the actual ICs, the memory chips on those things are like, those are literally being harvested out of like old junk E-machines from 1999 or whatever.
And like,
those aren't made anymore.
I think that stuff is really cool. And I think there is, Brad, you've talked about this, like, and Alex, you mentioned it as well, the kind of never been a better time for this hobbyist electronics, like not like soldered through hole electronics. Like I build a radio and I can get broadcast. It's kind of like not necessarily competing with Silicon Valley, but like hobbyist style thing that fills niches.
Totally. Like the idea that anybody with know-how can now design their own printed circuit board and submit a design and get like a small batch run of them in, I don't know, what is it, 2 weeks now or something? Like that was unheard of 20 years ago.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Just the scale of it's gone down. Like, you know, when I think about this radio network stuff, it's nothing that hasn't been in the, and it's interesting because the ham radio stuff requires licensing and you can't encrypt over that stuff. And this is outside of that and tiny, and you can do encryption on it because it's outside of the ham bands, which allows
ham bands.
So I suspect if anything like that were to ever blow up, there would be lobbyist groups for companies to say, no, we need to make it so this can't displace this other tech, right? Or this other thing. It's infringing on it.
I went to a ham bands the other night. It was right down the street from Fuddruckers.
Yeah. Did they have Sunset Riders there?
No.
Oh, bummer.
There's no Sunset Riders anywhere, man.
Last thing, just because I teased it earlier, the last thing I'll say before we get out of this tech talk. So that the big flagship Mr. Console.
No, I don't want you to say it. Don't say they're going to do an integrated scaler in there.
That's exactly what it's looking like.
Of course.
The big top secret feature he was saying like, hey, the hardware for this secret feature we're working on costs more than the entire rest of this build.
Yeah.
But he just teased photos or like design mock-ups like yesterday of a video input on that thing. And so yes, it's sounding like they may be building a 4K scaler into it.
Wait, where it could take in something as well?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. I thought it was just going to be for pushing out, you know, the whatever originates inside the thing.
That was the assumption originally. Was just like, oh, it'll be a Mister that can do 4K output.
Yeah.
That'll be cool because there's nothing like that on the market.
But what a time to be alive.
Potentially also be able to take analog video.
So you're basically
from your old consoles.
So if you take your Mister and you take your RetroTINK 5X or 4K, and you take, what is the name of that other thing that gets the saves off carts with all the slots on it?
Oh, the open source cart reader.
Open source cart reader. Tape them all together. You basically got this already.
Something like that.
Yeah, just gotta figure it all out. But I updated my Mister. Long story short, it started messing around with the N64 core as well on there, which I don't know, 98% completion, 99%, like kind of it's not being worked on, right? Currently?
No, it's done. It's gone as far as it can on this hardware. I think I don't know what the number is, but there's like a few dozen games that have some number of issues, but like only like 3 or 4 games are marked as basically unplayable.
And it's like pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see that stuff working, and I think the Mister, now that it's in a little case I have, and now that I got this thing hooked up with it, I was almost wondering, and I set up my controller finally so that I can push the buttons on it and navigate the whole thing with the on-screen display. Maybe I should move this upstairs and like go through some stuff with the kids. And maybe it's time, because there's really been no other way ever to play A Link to the Past.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's the only way.
Absolutely not.
But pixel perfect Link to the Past.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was looking for my saves that I had dumped off with my Retroed, and I couldn't find them. For the life of me, could not find them on my NAS. The other problem of I skip the NAS on my everything or everywhere? Everything. Search index, because I don't want it to index all the ROMs.
Oh, really?
Because when it comes up for searches, like it muddies them up. I wish I could just, maybe there's a way to do it with like a command, a regex command or something for the string files to be like, don't include anything.
Yeah, you
with
can
this.
exclude from.
But they're all in zips, so I feel like if I'm looking for everything, if I'm looking for a file, I don't want all those ROMs getting searched or indexed or coming up. So I usually keep it off, but that's where my saves were packed away in my ROMs folder. So this is why I could not find them. All right, should we get to the modern video games?
Oh, I guess.
If you're into that sort of thing.
I had a really good time going through all of that old stuff. because I've been thinking a lot ever since Dan mentioned this, the N64 and the Super Nintendo being like, what are my favorite Super Nintendo games? And going back and wanting to try them out and get back in there. I was on playing a bunch of Prince of Persia. I was like, yeah, Prince of Persia rocks on the Super Nintendo. Wound up, the thought crossed my mind. I loaded up Super Mario World and was like, this game is just a damn joy. It just brings pleasure when you look how you get on a Yoshi in like 5 seconds. You're just on a Yoshi.
Then you can get off of him right over a pit.
And you can just launch him into a pit. Too. Like, no fuss, no muss. You're just right in there.
Yeah. I'll tell you what you do, man. Get on that Yoshi. You walk about 5 feet, you get the hell off that Yoshi, and you let that Yoshi go into the damn pit.
Ah, what a great console. Maybe the
greatest. I would argue it's maybe better than the N64. I know that's fucking controversial, but maybe it is.
Maybe nothing.
Yeah. So I was thinking about, this is going to sound super bad, but we have our Patron's Choice coming up, and I was like, the thing I wanted to do is go check out some Super Nintendo games, but I was thinking like, oh, maybe we do that list he gave us of the Super Nintendo versus 64 games that were paired up, like Mario World versus Super Mario 64 or Mario 64. And then I was like looking at that list and be like, no, these games are boring. I don't want to even boot these up.
We should make him come on for that.
Yeah.
Make him defend his opinions.
Yeah.
He'll just double down.
I said it on the Never Been a Better podcast. Look, if you, and he mentioned it, and then it occurred to me, and Alex, I probably holds for you too. If you were into those Aki wrestling games on the 64, that's a hell of a console. That's a hell of a console for wrestling fans.
It's literally the reason I hold any esteem for the N64. It's not that there aren't other games on there that I like, but if it were not for that single developer and the 6 or 7 of those games they made, I don't think I would care about ever having an N64 plugged in again.
Yeah. Or the other thing is that, look, if you had friends, N64 did have 4 controllers. Yeah, right. I think that's what I said. That's what I said.
I had 4 controllers. Most of them did not get used.
What did I say? Yeah, I didn't get into video game because I had friends.
Yep.
I got into it because
I didn't get into video games because I had friends or I'm good at dealing with my problems.
That's right. All right, let's talk about some other video games here. Let's start with Hellblade, Senua Saga, Hellblade 2 here. Coming back to it. I wound up finishing it up.
Okay. How long did it end up taking you?
Not that long, actually.
Yeah,
so I don't have the complete hour count in front of me. Brad, you've continued along with some of it?
Yeah, I played some more of it too. I actually looked at like the leaderboard. It's the first time I opened a game card on the Xbox in like 2 years. Which is currently now the name for where the achievements and stats and stuff live, but they do still track some stats. I don't think they track as many as they used to. Because I don't know if you remember, was it beginning of Xbox One, you would see games tracking like number of steps taken and stuff like that. I think the only stat I saw for Hellblade is time played.
Okay.
But anyway, like nobody on my friends list had more than like 8.5 hours. It was quite a few people right around 8, so I'm guessing that's the average time.
So I'll just say this, after you beat it, you can replay in a couple of other modes. One of them has an alternate narration mode from some other characters.
I heard about that. I thought that sounded really interesting, but I don't know if it's a spoiler to say who the other narrators are.
I won't say who the narrators are, but or what it involves, but it is essentially, it's just the VO in certain parts. It doesn't change any of the gameplay or perspective, or you don't play as a different character. You just get different voiceover during some of the voiceover during the thing. So I played some of it, and then I got up to some of the puzzles again and was like, no, I'm good. I'm good. So I was down on it, and then I was high on it, and I think I ended pretty middling on it, actually.
Okay.
I think it doesn't really explore as interestingly the world of Senua or go deeper into what the first game laid out in any meaningful way.
It's just a continuation.
I would say it shifts gears and tries to be a little more God of War epic. I'm
starting to see some of that stuff. Some of the stuff you referred to last week where it starts getting more overtly supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I don't know how much you want to talk about this without giving stuff away, like reframing the voices in her head from what I'm starting to see. Like
I talked about that last week.
You did? Okay,
where it starts to go from, the first game very much was marketed as maybe sounds like a derogatory term, but pitched as this is a struggle with mental illness, right?
Yeah.
And this, again, starts to go more into like, no, maybe this is like a supernatural
Yeah,
thing.
that's exactly the moment that I hit that I was like, wait a minute, what is this still a meditation on like mental stuff, or is this just magic now?
Right.
No, they're saying that everyone who hears voices is magic. That's what they're trying to say here. No, I know what you're saying, and it's just like, it is something that has kind of bothered me about playing this game. Like, the sense that they don't feel like they have a great grip on really even the thing they pitched that first game as, and that they are trying to kind of reshape it into this thing that does, like you said, feels more like one of the recent God of War sequels. I just don't think it fits into that hole very well. You know, like it's the right lore, but that's it. Like, everything else about the game does not feel like it should be pitched as this big blockbuster epic. Because, yeah, the first game looked really nice, but the scale of it and the way it told its story, I think always kind of felt like, hey, yes, we're kind of a big budget studio, but we're trying to do this smaller, weirder thing. And it feels like they're trying to enlarge that thing in a way that it does not feel right.
So I mean, this isn't giving much away. Like the giant stuff is all over the marketing for this.
Yeah.
Like I'm a ways into the stuff with the giantess.
Have you gone through the caves?
I think I'm like at that point. I'm doing puzzles, like environmental shaping puzzles, like you talked about.
A lot of those.
Yeah. So is it a lot more of that once you get into the cave?
That's kind of the only puzzle.
I think I'm right at the point where you're looking for like an entrance to a hidden world kind of thing.
Yeah, there's two puzzles basically in the game. One is line up the shape in the environment. The other one is alter the environment by triggering orbs.
Yes, so I've done a good bit of both of those at this point.
So there's no new ones coming at this point, is what you're saying.
And I've done enough combat to, I think you already said, like the combat doesn't really change either, right?
The combat doesn't really change after that point that we talked about last time with the mirror.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a better sense of it, and the enemies you maybe have one or two variations left to go. Like they get a kind of ranged enemy. I don't know if you've reached the fire enemy.
Yes.
Okay. But you're basically, again, I don't actually mind the combat because I'm not here for an action game, but I feel like they want it to be an action game. The combat is it's more akin to a QuickTime event. Like if you just hit the right buttons at the right time, you can kind of QuickTime your way or just kind of prompt your way through it.
And the rigidity of the combos becomes apparent very quickly. Like you'll see the same 3-hit combo from the same enemy kind of over and over.
Oh my gosh, from the enemy, yeah. I think the frame blending of Senua's moves into one another is actually really well done. That looks cool. Like when you're like, oh, it's a light attack into a strong attack, and then she'll just move into if I hit strong again, she's going to move into this overhead strike that breaks a guard. It looks nice.
Like the presentation, the more I play of it, the more impressed I am with the presentation. Like they're in a Real 5, which has got all the no level of detail pop in stuff, but they actually use that, It's like you're in like a close-up scene between characters, and all of a sudden the camera just like lifts up and flies out over the landscape, and it still looks good even though it's like zooming like a mile away from where the characters were.
And they do, just to mention the tack onto that, they are going, it seems like, for that uninterrupted camera shot thing.
I meant to mention that last week. It very much seems inspired by the God of War, like the whole game is one unbroken shot, except they fudge it. Like, in fact, it feels like, I think it might actually be at the chapter breaks, because there's a chapter select in the game. It might be every time you're in a new chapter, or maybe not every time, but the camera tends to like pan up to the sky.
Yeah, like in cloud cover.
And they'll kind of like dissolve the sky to something else and come back down. But they do interesting stuff with passage of time. Like there's one really subtle moment that was actually like probably the most interesting presentation I've seen in the whole game, where it's her and two dudes making their way across the landscape without giving away too much about the story.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one segment, I think there's voiceover at the time, where it's like they kind of like go into like a ruined tower with these big ropes hanging from the top, and like they're at the bottom of the tower when the camera follows them in there, but then the camera just like flies up to the top of the tower, and they're like climbing out of the top. Yeah. It's like a really interesting, seamless way to imply passage of time without just showing a bunch of stuff.
They do stuff like that a couple of times. I think my issue with it is probably it feels less confident than I think it did in its original, from what I remember. And again, my memory of the original is not that great in the details, but it was a very personal Senua saving herself kind of tale is what I remember the first one being. And this one is very much an epic tale of save the land. And the confidence in showing the personal challenges of that feels or maybe confidence in the right word. Some steps feel tepid, like they don't feel sure-footed of like what are the challenges of being a leader? Like what are the challenges of making these decisions while you're dealing with your own pain? And I feel like I kind of hear what they're going for here, but it never feels as assured as it should.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's finally getting to that point for me where what you're describing is starting to come together, but it felt like it took a long time to figure out what it was trying to do.
Yeah.
I get to the point.
It feels to me like they internalized some of the bad criticisms about the first game, which is to say that they got, like a lot of people were on their shit about, the combat and sort of the gameplay being kind of, marginal in that first one, and the story itself not really, I don't know. Like it feels to me like at some point along the way they were trying to justify why they were making the sequel, and they are justifying the wrong things. Like they are trying to make this thing feel bigger than it actually should be. They are trying to make her story bigger than it should be. And by doing that, what you've kind of done is undercut the sort of message of that first game, which was the personal story about Senua and her mental illness, the thing that you spent a long time talking about, how everything you did in making that first game was about making sure you were respectful and thoughtful about what the mental illness stuff was. And here you're like, yeah, but what if it was supernatural? What if it was ghosts? What if it's actually about this much larger world, defining plot? And it's like, I don't need that from this.
Yeah. And it's not that it's wholly unsuccessful. I just think it's confused about where it wants to be in its storytelling. And I think
none of it is bad. I don't think any of it is awful. It's just, it's one of those games where as I'm playing it, if it was the old GameSpot style, I know for a fact I would be giving this like graphics 9, sound 9, and then 5s and 6s for everything else. Like it's just not that interesting.
I've got scorecalc.xls right here if you want to.
It's your fault that I'm thinking about this now, unfortunately.
I could, well, I haven't finished the game yet, but I could start mocking out a score.
Yeah.
I mean, it does sound and look amazing. The game, I will say this also, it feels padded out for a short game. Like those puzzles get very repetitive in ways that are like, this is not meaningful mechanic. This is not a meaningful mechanic in this game.
I haven't even had time to get tired of the puzzles yet. I am getting my fill of the combat and then some, but the puzzles have not overstayed their welcome yet. But that's also what I meant about like the storytelling or the focus. Like, what is it? 2+ hours into an 8-hour game before it becomes apparent what the direction of the story is, other than like she's here to free the slaves, I guess.
Right.
But she still got some inner turmoil. Like, I guess, I don't know. You just don't get a lot of context. You get a lot of her in the moment, very understandably being dismayed by the shit going on in front of her. But that's kind of all it is for a long time. It's a lot of like, a lot of blood everywhere, and a lot of her being very upset about the things she's having to do. But you don't know where it's going, I guess is what I'm saying. Like you don't know what the focus of the game is going to be for kind of too long.
Yeah, I think this could probably be, if it's an 8-hour game, could probably be a 6-hour game, trimmed up and still be a fairly successful version of what it's trying to do, without it feeling like they cut to the bone on stuff. I also think a little more, just a little more, not even focus on her, because there is a lot of focus on her. I would like it to have gone back into less of the epic trappings that are around it. But it's not that game. This is not that game. This is not the first game. So anyway, I finished it up. I'd say middling, I don't know if we were 4 out of 5, if I'm giving it a star rating, let's say.
Well, that's a little higher than middling.
I would be hard pressed to give it a 3, because the visuals and audio are just exceptional. They are just
But are they worth it?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I mean, the acting is phenomenal. Like the actress
really
that plays
well done.
Senua and all the other characters is exceptional. It's just more. It just comes down to, and these are games I like. It's almost like a walk and talk game with some combat bolted on. It's an exploration game in the kind of vein of games that you're just walking around trying to you don't pick up items, but you might as well be picking up an item, looking at it, and being like, oh, this is a thing.
It is a narrative vehicle first and foremost, with some of the trappings of a normal video game in it, meaning combat and puzzle solving.
Yeah,
but it's primarily there to tell the story.
But I don't regret spending my time with it. I just I'm glad it wrapped up when it did. There was like one or two extra match up the elements of the puzzle in the environment puzzles that I was like, really? Are we still doing this? This is to open this door. I think we're done here. And like, yeah, we'll see. Brad, I would like to hear your thoughts on the end if you want to finishing it. You're probably more than halfway through.
Yeah, I do want to see the rest of it through. I don't know if this is a good yardstick or not, but the collectibles, although actually now it seems like there might be two types of collectibles. I thought there was just the one.
I thought there was just the one too. I never found that other collectible.
Oh, really? I found one
the
of
face
them.
thing.
Yeah, I found one of those last night, and I thought it was, that's pretty clever.
I found one, and I never found another one.
There was absolutely no tell in the environment whatsoever that was a thing. I just happened to. The game's got the zoom in mechanic that you can do at any time. It's just that usually it's very signposted when you should use it. But in this case, I was just like, that's weird. There's a giant stone face just lying here. I wonder what would happen if I zoom in on it. And sure enough, something happened, and that was like probably the coolest, just like. Anecdotal moment in the game for me so far, which had nothing to do with the story. It was just oh my gosh, like I intuited that something might happen here, and it did. That feels kind of magical.
My problem with that, and the other collectible are like little stories you can get, like from this post, and those are more interesting because you get a little story to me. But there was never a point in the game where I felt like I wanted to explore this area, like traversing around. Is not very fast, and like there's always somebody waiting for you. Usually,
that's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's because my inclination is to poke through every path I see until I move on, but the game feels like it's hurting you along to the point that, like you said, there's almost always, so far for me at least, a character also urging you along and kind of hanging out. And I just feel weird going off the path because it's so much about keeping the story moving. Although, I had to laugh when I did that last night at one point and found a collectible and came back. They had gone out of their way to animate the companion like sitting down and waiting for me.
Okay.
By the time I got back, he wasn't just standing there staring into space like most NPCs would. Like they had accounted for you to go off and do that, which felt a little more natural.
When I went off and found a thing once, there were two people there, and I could overhear them in the distance saying like, one of them being like, "I told you she's crazy. She just goes off and does her own thing sometimes," which is like, again, that's kind of neat, but it's usually it's like the exploration is like the path branches, you go right or left, and then you climb up a couple of painted white ledges and find a thing. And I just, at some point I was like, I just want to, it's okay. I'm not gonna
she sees things no one else can see, and she only needs 2 more of them for the achievement.
That's right.
There is a thing
real quick locked off from the collectibles.
Yeah, the thing I was going to ask though, the sign, the story the collectibles, there's that totem that kind of shows how many you have. Like I'm over halfway down that thing now. Are those doled out?
And you've got them all in order?
No, I've missed probably a third of the ones that I've passed so far. But if they dole those out steadily throughout the game, I don't know if they stop prematurely before the end. But I'm like I said, I've got the last one I got. Was over halfway down, so I don't know if that means I'm halfway through the game already.
No, those go up until the very end, until the last area.
Yeah, the spacing might not be consistent either, but I was kind of shocked. I was like, man, I feel like I'm still in the intro of this game.
If you get into the caves, that caves can be a fairly big area that took up a lot of time. I would say that's like there's the first act, and that caves is the middle act, and then after that you just hit your third act and you're kind of done. So, and the third act I felt like went very quickly. I thought I was going to sit down and play a bunch more, but I did not. It just kind of wrapped up. All right, that's Hellblade 2 or Senua Saga. Hellblade 2. Will there be more in Senua Saga? Well, I think they have another game in development, right? That's what we reported on last time. I don't know if it's a Senua game, but
did I mention last week? I think they have another project that they've teased.
Oh,
in the past, I don't think I mentioned that Project Mara or Mara,
Mara.
Yeah. Which looks like they teased that like 4 years ago, so I don't know.
Is it an action game?
I don't know.
I don't think they've said anything about what it is.
The first subtitle in this trailer, I can't tell what's real anymore. And then it appears to be footage in like a hotel of some sort. Futuristic hotel. I don't know.
Oh, maybe that does sound kind of familiar, but...
A computer with the words mental construct on it.
Okay, well... Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That sounds interesting. I'm going to talk about another game that takes place in a hotel when we come back from this break, so stick around. All right, we are back, and as promised, another game in a hotel, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Now,
wait, did we establish last week that it was a hotel, in fact?
I think so.
Did we?
I think so. I mean, that's the environment. It's a hotel.
I don't think that's a spoiler.
Okay.
It is maybe, not maybe. It is so far, maybe, I keep saying maybe. It is so far on my Game of the Year list. Out of the stuff I have played, this one is in the top 10. I was trying to think like, all right, what else would be on that list? And I was struggling a little bit, but I haven't really thought about it too much. But this one, for sure, is maybe one of my most enjoyable games I have played in 2024. It is, I mentioned it last time, I finished it up, damn near close to 100% completion. There is some stuff I didn't get, which involves some collectibles that I didn't get, getting some US dollars, some currency around. I didn't find all of them. I think it wraps up very well. I think the puzzles are pretty fun the whole way through. They are mathematical in a way, but they're not necessarily arithmetic.
They're not arithmeticulous.
Arithmetical.
I like what I said.
Arithmeticulous.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily require you to have good multiplication skills, let's say, or division skills.
Good, because I don't.
Yeah, neither do I. They actually give you a calculator if you need it.
That's really nice of them.
Yeah. They're more kind of conceptual math things. And there's a lot of those. They're fun, man. I really enjoyed this game. And there are a lot of them. A lot of puzzles and visual puzzles and all sorts of fun, weird things. I had to look up a couple of them to be like, all right, I need a hint here. Give me a little hint on this one. And usually after the hint, I was able to be like, oh, okay, I can figure this out. Very neat, good playtime, doesn't overstay its welcome, awesome design, great visual style, just a
How many
fun
laser
game.
eyes?
What's that?
How many laser eyes would you say?
At least 2 sets of laser eyes, if not more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bare minimum. Got it.
Good mix of like 60s style mixed with modern day computer stuff, mixed with 60s computer stuff. It's very cool. I highly recommend it to people who fans of the puzzle genre. Will really
should they rejoice?
Rejoice. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is out there. I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want to get into spoiler stuff because there is a lot of fun to be had, and it's a mystery game on top of that. You're trying to solve the mystery.
Yeah, like I said last week, I'm saving that for my LA trip next week.
Dude, I had 7 to 8 pages of notes. Single-sided. So maybe 4 double-sided. So bring a notepad and a pencil.
Yeah, and I may have to rethink this then. That's only a 90-minute flight, and I don't know how much note-taking game time I'm going to have, but I'll start it on that trip and then play it when I get back if it's...
Everything is usually referenced in the game. I just found it easier to have the notes in front of me and to do some amount of scribbling on a piece of paper. Only one set of and don't forget, my short-term memory is terrible. So if somebody actually has a functional short-term memory, you might not need the notepad as much. I do not. So I would be the thing that would be like, okay, the code for this is 613. Exit out of the menu, go back to the combination, and be like, what was that code again? So it's just all gone up there. It's just all gone. My Laser Eyes, very cool. Go check it out if you like puzzle games. It's $25. I played it on Steam, but it is available on the Switch, I believe. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Big recommend from Big Vin.
Can I mention yet another game set in a hotel real quick?
Yeah, please. Hotel Dust.
I have not played it yet, but I've been staring at it. Hotel Overloop.
Oh, what is that?
I don't know if you've kept track, but games inspired by The Exit 8 have been coming out.
Yes.
I saw another one that was like a knockoff that I heard was actually okay.
Was there one in a bathroom? I thought I saw one in a bathroom.
Oh, man. I might have to check that one out. This one, as you might guess, is set in a hotel. It's also $3.99 on Steam.
Okay.
But it's got good user reviews and looks nice. And crucially has that like fisheye lens look of the Exit 8.
Okay.
Which is part of what I need.
Basically, you want all your games to be a Hype Williams video.
Yep, pretty much. But anyway, I might, time allowing, I may check that out at some point soon because I need more of the Exit 8 in my life.
And if people don't remember, the Exit 8 is that genre, let's call it, is a loop-based game where you're in the same environment looping, but you have to spot the difference.
Yeah, it's like an anomaly game. Is that what people are calling them?
I don't know.
Maybe because that's what they call the things you're looking for. The differences are called anomalies in the game. Actually, God, did we talk about it? Like the developer of Exit 8 announced a sequel. Did we ever discuss that?
No, we didn't.
No.
It's called Platform 8.
Oh,
you're on the train.
Oh, you got it! Finally made it.
Google Platform 8 and look for it. And in this one, you're on that train. The dude is there. Remember the
Same
dude?
guy?
Oh,
Remember
the dude. I know the dude.
That dude is on the train.
The one with the briefcase?
Listen, they paid for that character asset. They're going to use it.
Yeah, I guess would you call these like PT inspired? Like, cause that
you could see some PT influence, maybe.
Lightly.
Yeah, because you're kind of walking around the same environment and then something would change, right?
Yeah.
Every time you did a loop.
But the thing is, I mean, look, it's not that PT necessarily invented that kind of thing. It was certainly the thing that seems to have spawned off a lot of games that are like the horror genre these days. But that's the thing is that a lot of horror games do this kind of thing now.
Subtle difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, even a Five Nights at Freddy's is like check the monitors until you see something slightly different or out of place, right? From what I know of Five Nights at Freddy's, which is not a lot. But
no. You really lucked out on that one that the kids did not seize on that particular franchise.
Yeah, look, I have nothing against it. I just I never found that gameplay loop to be that fun.
No, it's not. But I'm just saying that there are kids out there who are obsessed with that shit. Not even just the games, but like everything around the edges. So at least you don't have to deal with that.
He did call it FNAF, and I was like, I don't think people actually say FNAF, but maybe.
But everyone types it, so I get it.
Yeah. I think he was a little too old, young. I think he missed the window. I think I just missed it by a couple of years for the Five Nights. Another game here. I'll just mention because it's a really short one. Duck Detective: The Secret Salami. Pick this up, and you play as a voiced over duck, hard-boiled detective duck.
How quacky is the voice?
Not at all. No, it's more like, my wife left me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like, my wife left me.
No, not at all. You
it.
can make the duck quack, though. There's a dedicated quack button. Thing is, this game's $10. It's one case, the Secret Salami case. Kind of interesting. It's like 2 hours long.
Okay.
I was kind of bummed out when I was like, because it is called the Secret Salami, and the case I was doing was about a salami, and I was like, oh my gosh, is this the only case that's in here? All right, I guess so. It's fun. It is not as good as the Golden Idol mysteries, which it is very similar to gameplay wise. You're collecting verbs, nouns, and stuff like that, and then putting them into a sequence, filling in the blanks Mad Lib style with those to solve the cases. I love the Golden Idol stuff, and I think that does this better for me. But if you're looking for my first Golden Idol mysteries game or a thing similar to that has a slightly less conspiratorial dark tone, then this is good. This is okay.
It's got a cool look.
It's fun. It's cute.
I don't think I had realized how much the characters have this kind of Paper Mario like paper cutout sticker look to them. Yeah.
There's a very small cast of characters in there. There's only probably about 8. It is charming. It is fun. It is short. And so thank goodness for the short games. This one though kind of took me a little by surprise and be like, oh, we finished it. We finished this game. That's it. It's $10. A good price for that? That's gonna be up to you to decide.
$5 an hour? I can deal with that if it's good.
Currently $8.99.
Yeah. Oh, is it on sale or is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's only $4.50 an hour.
That I think that's on Switch. Also, I played it on the PC. All right, let's move on here. Brad, you play any more Animal Well?
Just a little bit. I've been super busy with Summer Game Fest coming up, trying to get ready for that. But I got back into it and that's kind of a hard game to come back to after even a short amount of time away from it.
What, you don't remember why you're at this telephone going left?
I just mean like where the hell anything is or what I was doing. Because I had uncovered a good amount of the map. I all the time I put back into it has basically been roaming around trying to remember like what was the direction I was going, which direction seemed the most promising in terms of what I should do next.
Yeah.
Because I had been at kind of an impasse when I put it down for I was only away from it for like a week. But by the time I came back to it, I was like, man, I have no fucking idea where to go here. So anyway, that's about that. I had missed you could zoom the map in and out.
Okay.
I just totally missed those button prompts. And so I've also started annotating stuff now.
Okay.
Like I really wish I had been doing more of that. Because like I wanted to go back to that musical puzzle I mentioned last week and take another stab at it, but I had not marked where that is. Like that map, when you're in it, that map is pretty much fine.
Yeah.
It is not detailed enough, though, if you need to jog your memory at all.
You just got to write like start here.
Yes, I should have. I really should have. Wait, can you put just random text in?
I think at some point you can unlock a pencil.
Oh, okay. That would make sense. It's just icons for me right now, but
I never hit the part where I wanted to dig in and find all the secret stuff with that game after I saw credits. Saw credits. I'm going to call it beat. After I beat that game, I feel like from what I've heard is like, oh, that you're just getting started.
Oh yeah, I've absolutely seen that sentiment repeatedly.
But I never got the, like the breadcrumb trail wasn't there, or like they're like, oh, what more can I discover? It didn't have enough there to keep me going. And I feel like I do, if you were to tell me, oh, you're going to discover the narrative secrets of the animal well and how this whole thing was built, that's cool. If you're going to tell me like, oh, you're going to get like 100 more cool platforming puzzles, then that's less interesting to me. I think fans of this podcast will know that if the way to Vinny's Heart is through a narrative or even mysteriously obtuse narrative versus like really interesting mechanics. Like it's just not the thing I'm looking for all the time.
Can I say a thing about that game that I saw someone post about it?
You can certainly repeat it here, I assume, unless it's going to get us all canceled.
No, definitely not. But someone I follow on Blue Sky was, I guess, has been playing this game, and I have no idea what context this would have happened in, but apparently at some point the game sent a document to their printer while they were playing.
Huh.
It was for real?
Yeah, I think so.
So the week it came out, I started to mention this and don't think I did, but people figured out that I'm playing it on PS5, so I can't do this, but people figured out in the PC version, if you run it in a window, grab the title bar of the window with your mouse and shake the window back and forth, all the physics objects in the world react to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool.
So, like, if you're telling me there are other weird hooks into the functioning of your computer that people haven't found yet, I would totally believe that.
This person said they didn't even know their printer was connected to the network, so it was wild. But so the document they were sent was basically just an origami diagram.
Huh. That is extremely cool, man. Is this game majestic?
I keep saying you could never make a new Majestic because people would get so mad if they did that. Somebody, a breach of privacy on your network system here, but maybe people are open to it. I don't know if I would like something I ran as an executable printing stuff without my knowledge. I don't know.
You'd compensate your players for the ink and paper?
That's right.
Seems a bit presumptuous of you now. I think that's amazing.
Like, my printer is next to my wife's office here in her office, and if she's in a meeting and the printer goes off while she's on a call, I feel like I would be in kind of trouble. Not that we have like an old dot matrix.
I mean,
printer.
This isn't like 1,000 pages or anything. I think it was like 3 pieces of paper at most.
What if I don't have paper in there and then the thing starts beeping or something? And it's like beep, 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 and it like changed the toner. What is happening? Why are you printing? We don't print.
Look, Vinny,
dude,
do you want to get spooked or not?
I want to get spooked. As a fan of the Majestic, again, I want these games to come back, and I want to be in a world where it's okay if you get random phone calls from a video game and not have it be creepy and weird.
I had to go Google this. There are straight up just posts now, people talking about this as if it's like fucking IT troubleshooting. Like in the most matter of fact way, hey, it's stuck in the print queue. I tried rebooting, like full on. Like the magic of this feature is gone. It's just now I can't get the print spooler is fucked up.
Stuck in my print cube. My secret Easter egg got stuck in my print cube.
It is an
Even
absolutely
more
buck-wild
amazing.
thing to assume that anyone has a printer in 2024.
I have a printer.
But like a working one?
I
Yeah.
have a working one.
I do too, but I'm weird.
All three of us do.
But most people don't, is the thing.
I mean,
That's
this
my
is
new website, Secret Printers.
well documented. Anybody that bought a black and white Brother laser between like 2008 and 2014, it's still going strong.
Wait, I have a black and white Brother laser
Dude,
that I
that's,
bought.
I mean, that's
at
like
that time.
it's basically a running joke at this point. That,
Oh,
like,
really?
Those printers are just built like tanks, and that's if you want a printer, you should just get one of those.
I have a spare toner just in case they stop selling it. I
Yeah.
assume they will make the toner. Some third party will make toner for that thing forever. Yeah, that printer's awesome. Is yours like that like blackish grayish cube?
Mine's a 2170W, I think.
I think that might be mine.
Yeah, we may very well. I mean, we were living 2 blocks apart at the time.
Yeah.
We may very well have bought the same printer.
It's a great printer.
How could that even happen?
There's just enough times when for work I need to print out stuff because we deal with bureaucracy sometimes that I have to mail things. But there are just enough times where I'm really glad I have a printer that can print just a sheet of paper.
Yeah,
and be like, oh, I'm going on a train. You know what? I know I can have this thing on my phone, but I'm just going to print this thing and put it in my pocket, and then they could scan it if they need.
shipping labels.
Shipping label. I'm just going to print it.
I had
A bunch of labels on for resistor sizes. I'm just going to print it.
I used it to sign NDAs for a long time before
There you go.
people started being cool with digital signatures.
Have you ever, I think we had this with work too, and I don't like the expression wet signatures.
Ugh.
Uh-huh. I'm going to need your wet signature on this to mean that it has to be in ink.
Oh
Which,
man, my brain is mush right now. I spent 6 hours in an audio editor yesterday trying to perfect my audio post-production.
Yes.
The Reaper compressor plugin I got had wet and dry output option.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What the fuck is wet audio output?
It's saturated. It's got all the effects on it.
Huh.
It's saturated. It's so saturated. It's wet.
It's a little piece of jargon for you, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Wet and dry knobs all the time.
A term of art. just crank the wet knob.
Just put you want all the effects. It's all wet, man. Didn't know you like to get wet. All right.
Shit.
Shit.
Didn't know you like to get wet.
That's Animal Well. Let's see what else. Alex, any more Hades 2?
Yeah, I mean, so like this week has mostly for me been about like trying to find something new to like hook me on the regular because I've been trying a lot of stuff lately, and it's just now that I'm kind of done with Balatro and I've kind of churned through like DLC for Truck Simulator and Vampire Survivors and all that. I just don't have a thing that isn't Yakuza.
Yeah.
So I've been trying, and I played a little bit of a lot of things that I've had ongoing, like the little kitty game and the. I even went back to that crazy one bullet sniper game for a little while, which is still good, by the way. I might actually finish that. The only thing I've managed to consistently get going this last week was Hades 2. And I think it's because I realized, oh, wait, I'm not actually going to run into a situation where there's just no more game for me to play and I have to start everything over. They're pretty far along with this thing. I could just keep going, so I'm just doing that.
Like by the time you hit your wall, 1.0 is probably right around the corner.
Probably. And the thing is, if you just do a couple of runs a day, it's not like I'm, just churning through it or anything. It's like I'm just kind of progressing along. And I think by the time they finally put that thing out, I might be ready to play the full thing. We'll see.
So I feel like you played enough of Hades 1.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember enough, but have you run into any big differences that jump out at you between Hades 2 and Hades 1?
I mean, it's just a very different character flow, like she does not control like Zagreus did exactly. But, there's enough muscle memory, I feel like, from what I remember in Hades that still basically works. It's just, it's all new spells. It's a lot of new spells. It's a lot of new, like, interactions and stuff. And, like, but the core mechanics of just, hey, you are just trying to stack power on power on power and also be really good at not getting hit, like, that's all just still there.
I haven't played a ton of it, but what about that upgrade that like when you buy
the tarot card thing type deal? So I haven't gotten super far down that tree, but I've definitely unlocked a decent number of them, and now I'm at a point where it's like I'm having to turn some off to get others on and that kind of thing.
Okay. Okay.
Because you get at least where I'm at right now, there is a hard limit of the number of points you can run. Like it's 10 points, and each of those costs a certain number to have active.
Yeah.
So right now I have like multiple active, but like I'm at the limit. So
okay,
and I have some other ones I just had to turn off.
Okay, so that I wasn't sure how that wound up. I could have them all. I only have like 3 or 4 at this point.
I don't know if there's like an upgrade thing that gives you more points. I haven't quite gotten to that point yet, but it does seem like at the very least there are a lot of those to unlock.
Okay. Do you get them in the dungeon, or do you get them from a vendor? How do you want?
I haven't really. They're there sometimes at the end of a run. It's like, hey, you've got enough points, enough thing to whatever the material is. I can't remember which material it is. Whatever resource it is you have that unlocks them. If you have enough, you just unlock another one.
Okay.
But there's like a path for each one. It's like this one gives you access to this one. Like, it's like a menu where it's like it starts in one corner and you're just kind of working your way out.
Is it all new weapons? I don't know how many weapons you've unlocked. Like I
have 3 right now.
I assume there aren't any repeats from the first game.
I mean, they're repeats of a type. Like some are, very fast, like handheld weapons. Some are like more like pole staffs, swords, things like that. But I don't think they are the same weapons.
The named weapons, right?
They're a little different. They're just of a type that you recognize from the first game.
Sure.
Is there a shield?
I have not gotten a shield at this stage.
Okay. What was your favorite Hades 1 weapon? What was your go-to?
What was my favorite?
And why was
Hades
it the spear?
Weapon? I actually rotated a lot.
You did? Okay.
I did like the spear a lot. The spear was probably like the second most I ended up using, but I had this mentality of I'm going to go into a run with a different weapon and a different loadout every time.
Well, they gave you those incentives too. They're like plus 20, whatever, if you use this weapon.
And I think that stuff really went a long way to like getting me out of my comfort zone, and then made it very comfortable for me over time to just do that even when there wasn't a specific reason to do so.
I think for me, the spear seemed to, when I would use it enough, I'd get those like, you get that build that feels as if you broke the game somehow sometimes, where it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm like getting health on every other enemy I kill. This is the game-breaking build that I've done it. I've cracked the code, and then you die in the next room, and you're like, I'll never get that build again.
Yeah,
but I feel like I got it with the spear more than anything else.
Yeah, I think at this point I have yet to find a thing that I like love in the combat. Like there isn't like a specific weapon or a specific ability or like god tree to go down as far as powers go, where it's like this is my thing. But I'm still having a lot of fun just trying everything.
Cool.
Seeing what combinations stick.
Hades 2, early access out there now. My son's playing Hades 1 now, went back, and, he's got to finish Hades 1 before he can play Hades 2.
This kid has a voracious appetite for video games.
He certainly does. Look.
I mean, I get it. It's literally all I did at his age.
I was telling him the story about how my dad used to take our NES controllers and lock them in his room. Yeah, and he was like, why? And I was like, hopefully you'll never have to understand why a generation of turn it off and go outside, go get some sunlight, go play with your friends. It's just, maybe we're past that. I don't know. Screens rot your brain.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, they definitely do.
Yeah, definitely do.
My dad did not crack down, but he definitely did not approve and made that clear.
Okay.
Did a complete 180 the very day I started making money based on my knowledge of video games.
Nice.
As soon as I started doing freelance work, writing about games, it was a completely different story.
All that investment paid off.
Yep.
Research. No, my controllers wind up locked in the bedroom until I can get my own. And they come back out after I don't know, built a deck, whatever penance I had to pay. I'll just say it here, just in case people are keeping watch. Final Fantasy Rebirth continues to be a game, it's still out there. By not playing it, I didn't get to it this week either. I just assume more time gets added on, like interest,
Like they're silently patching more chapters onto the end.
It's like if you don't make it through the principal, your crew, if you don't take that principal down every week, you're just accruing Final Fantasy Rebirth interest every week. That's like every week you don't play, there's 2% more games that's going to get added on.
Man, That sounds like something like Kojima would have come up with in the Boktai era or something. that's like right up there with the game deletes itself when you die type shit.
Sure. The further a town gets away and you have to walk further and further every day you don't play it. But yeah, I'm still at the same point. I just, there are these fun games I had sitting here and I was like, I'm at the point now with Rebirth where I have to feel like there's nothing better I want to be playing. And Lorelei, really, every minute I got, I was putting into Lorelei and Laser Eyes. And then I was like, I really want to see what happens in Hellblade, and then put it in there. But we'll see, because we just did a Planorama for June. And let me tell you,
I'm going to be finishing Yakuza in June.
I might be finishing Final Fantasy.
There's going to be plenty of time to go back to Rebirth. Although I feel like with each passing week, my joke about finishing that game on the PS5 Pro becomes less of a joke.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it's a race now. It's a race now. All right. I think that's it for games, unless there's anything else you guys have.
Nope.
All right. Let's move on to the news. There's some interesting news this week, especially on the Sony front, and I guess we'll find out more this Thursday too. But we'll get to that in just a second. Stick around. And we are back, and like we mentioned before, Sony's out there trying to stir up some news, drum up some news. First of all, they've got their sale thing going on, play days.
Days of play.
Days of play.
Yeah. I mean, I just said this to you off the mic, but the second that sale got dated, I assumed a stream of some kind would coincide with it.
And he's never wrong,
Sure
Brad
enough.
Shoemaker.
Oh,
Mr.
actually,
Never
sorry.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry, the stream, I guess, is the day after the sale starts.
Well,
I was wrong.
I think the stream, the aforementioned stream, Thursday.
Yeah, it's been a lot of hand wringing out there, and actually, understandably so, about whether Sony was going to do anything before Summer Game Fest stream wise.
Yeah,
Obviously, Microsoft has got their thing on Sunday, the 9th of June, as traditional.
I feel like they kind of did this last year with not a lot of fanfare surrounding their stream here, and it's a half hour.
Yeah, well, that's like shockingly short for what would have been like the E3 stream, basically. And they called it a state of play. I mean, it's maybe just 6 of one, half a dozen of another. But previously, all their E3 streams had a different name. I feel like PlayStation Showcase or something like that. Like it was a bigger production,
Yeah.
The state of play is just like trailer after trailer, end to end, versus like the E3 window thing always had like an executive come out at the beginning and talk, stuff like that. This is just a state of play, and it's only 30 plus minutes, they are saying.
30 minutes. Their official announcement of it is really terse. State of Play is back. Tune in for live updates on PS5 and PS VR2 titles, plus a look at PlayStation Studio games arriving later this year. And that's pretty much it. They say
14 titles. Yeah, that's also 14 games in 30-ish minutes is kind of a lot.
2 minutes a game.
Yeah, you're not going to see a lot of each game.
I mean, 2 minutes a game could feel like an eternity for some trailers, but not enough for some others. But you're definitely, I mean, some of them could be 30-second bumps, and on the average. But
yeah,
it's 6 p.m. Eastern time. You do the math on your local time zone. But I don't know. What do you guys think? What are you feeling?
I mean, the obvious stuff is like stuff they have said is coming out this year, which is basically. The only 2 games that are confirmed to come out from Sony this year are Concord, that 70s multiplayer shooter that they teased once with CG trailer, never spoke of again, and that Until Dawn remake. So
right. I'd forgotten about that.
I would assume both of those will be there unless Concord has gotten pushed.
Huh.
Because they haven't said anything about a Concord in like a while.
No, I went and looked at the PlayStation blog post about it.
Oh, okay.
There's some language, and then this is back when it was announced, which was, 2 years ago or something, maybe last year.
It was last year, it looks like.
Okay, there is some language in there about, like, they're interested in, like, the social gaming situations that can arise with online multiplayer. And I was like, I wonder if there's, like, is there some social engineering aspect to this or something? Is this, like, big budget Among Us or something? But also they describe it as a PvP, first-person shooter. So I don't know how social it's going to be.
Do you think they do anything to promote Helldivers here, like a big thing coming in 2025
I
or
wouldn't be
2024?
shocked. I would not be shocked at all if there was some kind of like, hey, here's a big thing coming to Helldivers down the line.
In the mission reports, last time I played, it looked like there was a campaign, like, hey, help us liberate whatever, to get a new type of mech factory up and going. So maybe some of that.
Let's see. They have, Death Stranding 2 is announced, but for next year, but they could show that. They showed a lot of that earlier this year. I think that's probably it for a while on that one. They could do a marathon gameplay reveal.
Oh, man.
Maybe.
I mean,
I would not put money on it.
Do you show the new Destiny stuff, or is that just too soon? That's like this week.
Yeah, it's
maybe
like a couple weeks from now, I think. Yeah, they probably do show that.
That's a trailer. That's a final trailer, nothing else.
There's the final trailer for the final shape.
Yes. They've got that other multiplayer game, Fair Games, with a $sign.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That could show up.
I feel like these are all things they have just not done a great job of keeping in the public consciousness since they were announced.
Yeah, well, I think most of them are just pretty far out.
Yeah.
I've got a list of things here that somebody put together that's not necessarily Sony, but they would like to see, including Baby Steps. We got a trailer for that. Any reason that would be here?
Not necessarily.
That was on a different company's presentation originally, wasn't it?
I mean, PC one? Yeah, I mean, these are not Sony things.
Third-party stuff at that point, we're kind of speculating about every stream, because there's the actual Summer Game Fest stream, and then there's the Microsoft Showcase.
Yeah.
So third-party stuff could be on any of those.
Could be anywhere. That they've got that Star Wars game listed as something they'd like to see.
Oh, KOTOR?
No, Outlaws.
Oh, Outlaws. Well, Ubisoft is doing their own thing.
Oh, okay. Right, because they love E3. They have a marching band. I don't know. The thing that I would be most excited about, but it feels weird now. We just said it's going to be we don't know for sure. We have no idea. I can call up Grubb and ask him, but if it's going to be back-to-back trailers or not. But more PlayStation VR2 stuff specifically on the PC side doesn't seem like an announcement like that they shove in here. Unless there's a press release that comes alongside this thing and they show something and then dedicate more time. Yeah,
well, I mean, I guess I'll just mention this was kind of the last part of the Sony block of news, but since you mentioned the VR stuff, I'll just say it now. One of the stories this week, this was just discovered, although I think the filing happened maybe 2 months ago. It is let me make sure I got this right. It's Korea's National Radio Research Agency.
Mm-hmm.
Sony has applied for certification on a device that literally just says PlayStation VR2 PC adapter. So there you go.
Could be happening. Could be happening.
Pretty likely, it seems at this point, that they are going whole hog with that, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like they are doing the best possible version of making that headset work on a PC, which is to just give you a dongle that will let you use it like a real headset.
Yeah, whatever that.
To be clear, not
to
make you like stream games over the network to a PS5 or something like that.
Yes. But the question is, what's on the other end of that dongle?
I don't know. Probably USB-C and HDMI, if I had to guess. Also, the biggest question for me is, how much is it going to cost?
Free. Sony's just going to give you like a little thing. You get it for free.
I don't know, man.
Go to PlayStation.com, send it in.
Previously, not to... I mean, for the 8 people in the world who care about this, actually, I get the sense that like a pretty good number of people care about this. Like, I think the PC VR community would receive this very well, because there are, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is still the cheapest headset out there that has eye tracking in it. I might be wrong about that, or it's close. Anyway, it's still a competitive headset at the price. That adapter could be expensive. Like the hardware, the only hardware that has been out that would let you do it previously, that guy working on the homebrew driver for this thing, has used, is like $300.
What?
Yeah, it's got a bunch of video hardware in it. Like,
no way. That's way.
I'm not saying that's what this will be. I'm sure it'll be cheaper.
I know we're in the complete hypothetical land, but like I'm just saying,
I'm sure it'll be cheaper. But who knows? It could be $100 or something.
If it were for me and my purposes, 125 and underneath, I would consider it. I think above that, I'm thinking about just investing in a different headset. At that point.
I don't disagree. That absolutely starts to make you question the value of it. But it just comes down to how much hardware they have to put in that thing to make it work.
Yeah. Yep. And there's one more piece of news here that's not as speculative, Brad.
Yeah, but a lot of people just acting like this is a done deal for the stream tomorrow. Actually, by the time this podcast posts publicly, we'll be like hours away from this stream happening. Rumors pointing to a new Astrobot game pretty strongly.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that would be nice to see.
What if it's a PSVR2 exclusive?
I would not hold your. I would not even hold your breath for PSVR2 compatibility on that.
Compatibility, yeah.
Frankly.
So I guess the weirdest thing here for me is like the development on this. Because
Astrobot?
it's Team Asobi, right? That was,
yeah.
And then they were spun off, and then Japan Studio.
Yeah, when Japan Studio was shut down, they were kind of converted into their own freestanding thing.
Yeah, and this is their first thing since then?
I don't think they've worked on anything since Astro's Playroom.
Those games are fun.
Yeah, it would be cool for this to happen for multiple reasons. Like Astrobot is cool. It would also just be cool for more 3D platformers to happen than currently do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I will play this if it happens. I would be happy to play another Astrobot, but so much of Astro's Playroom was the nostalgia for me, like the kind of just comprehensive celebration of the PlayStation brand and history. That any game that lacks that is just going to be somewhat less interesting to me. But those are really well made games.
Yep, and they're took advantage of the PlayStation hardware in ways that something that you want to show off. What is it? I forget the resistive paddles.
Yeah,
what they call them?
Adaptive triggers and the touchpad and
triggers,
haptics and blah blah blah. And
yes,
seems like exactly the kind of game that the industry needs to be making more of.
Oh,
Like a game that can be made with like a reasonable sized staff at a reasonable budget, right?
Maybe this game doesn't come out now, and maybe this is a launch game for the PlayStation Pro that shows off all the bells and whistles the Pro will have. That's the last two games have kind of been tech showcases.
Yeah, the first one was a VR game.
So maybe this is a Pro. Maybe the other side is maybe this launches on PC as a VR game, and it's a PC exclusive, and you have to buy this dongle, this $300 dongle, to play your next Astro game with your PlayStation headset.
I don't think Sony cares about that headset that much.
No, I think you're right. So we'll definitely know more, and you might know more if you're listening to this by the time you listen to it, because the Sony, like we said, State of Play happening Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern. We're going to try and cover the 30 minutes of it. So you can come join us as we also find out more live Thursday.
We're going to learn when you do.
Couple of lesser rumors I saw going around. There's something going on with Lego and Horizon, it seems.
Like Horizon
Zero
Lego.
Dawn Horizon.
Okay, but not...
Whether that's just like physical Lego toy stuff or if there's some kind of... The leaks and rumors seemed unclear on exactly what that collaboration is going to be.
But maybe some kind of partnership.
Now you can rebuild your own Earth with Lego.
Yeah.
Make it right this time.
Yes. There's also some weird talk about like a Zero Dawn remaster full on.
Okay.
But that seems pretty thin to me.
There was that Horizon multiplayer game they mentioned like 3 years ago or something, that I think it was a hiring post went up to be like, we're expanding the Horizon universe in a multiplayer space, but that I haven't heard anything about that.
God, I completely forgot about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
So maybe that's off the Sony.
I don't know.
Truly do not remember anything about that, honestly.
I would say keep expectations low for this thing and be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Horizon, though, does feel like one of their franchises they're still pretty happy with. Like they can kind of mold into different things. VR, we can try a VR thing. We can stick this somewhere else, and I feel like God of War stays in its own little space, and they don't branch it out into this multi-platform thing. But I feel like they're okay doing that with Horizon.
God of War Ragnarok PC seems due. Also, I could talk about that. Yeah,
I thought it would play nicely. All right, that's the Sony news. Microsoft, it's getting near that time Brad, what's going on with Call of Duty?
Black Ops 6. Any interest?
What? I can't. If you told me we were on Black Ops 3, I think I'd be like, well, there haven't been more. Okay, but I'll believe you. I can't believe we're on 6 already.
God, was Black Ops 3 even on the PS4, or was that still PS3 360?
I think that might have been the first PS4 one.
Which one was the future stuff? Is that 3?
Infinite Warfare?
Infinite Warfare, yeah.
Black Ops, that's right. I remember now. Black Ops 3 was a couple of years into the last generation. But
which one had Reagan?
Oh, God.
On a lot of them?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Isn't he always showing up in shit?
Yeah, you know.
That had to be a Black Ops. I forget.
It was definitely a Black Ops. I don't remember which one because
and there was the key. They got the keys to the drones. That was the future-ish one, right?
Who can keep all these track of all these?
Anyway, they announced Black Ops 6, which is set during the Gulf War. But the big thing is they have finally confirmed that Call of Duty will in fact be coming day one to Game Pass.
They did it. Yep. Sony's nightmares have been realized.
This is like the longest running and perhaps most tedious will they, won't they?
Well,
they will.
It was never a won't they is the thing, though.
Yes, I don't know.
Dude, they paid $70 billion for that company.
Of course, but Game Pass is like kind of flatline, or not flatlining, but it has plateaued dramatically.
And what's a great way to maybe juice that back up?
Well, that was the question. The question was, are they still all in on Game Pass, or are they going to start hedging their bets? Because there's a huge opportunity cost to not selling Call of Duty anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How many millions of people are you now not getting $60 to $70 from for the game? And are you going to make that up and more by getting people into the Game Pass ecosystem? That's the bet.
I think even if you are hedging your bets, putting Call of Duty on Game Pass still makes a lot of sense because there is basically no more risk-free way of putting a big thing on Game Pass than saying, we're going to try Call of Duty for a year. Also, it's the 6th Black Ops, so if it doesn't work out, we just won't do it next time.
I mean, it probably is the Hail Mary that Game Pass needs at this point to see if they can really goose the numbers.
Yeah.
But I mean, the main reason it's been a question is because there's been this broader upheaval inside of Xbox, right? And like they're shutting down studios now, and people are starting to question the Phil Spencer tenure and stuff like that, you know?
And on top of what you said too, which was like maybe Game Pass not being the, license to print money that they thought it was going to.
Yeah, like I mean, nobody knows, nobody has the financials in front of them outside of Microsoft, but like I think the widespread assumption at this point is that it might be a loss leader. You know, they're probably sinking a ton of money into it to try to grow it. I mean, of course they are. That's what giant corporations do. So, but have they finally lost their appetite for that now that, like consequences are coming due inside of Xbox? It seems like, as far as, they don't have as much leeway as they used to be trying things anymore.
I think Call of Duty is an interesting one. If even more than the Game Pass, if they can get people into the Xbox ecosystem to spend their money on their microtransactions in the Xbox ecosystem as opposed to a PlayStation one, I just don't know if anybody at this point in the generation is like, you know what, I'm just going to go buy an Xbox instead of a PlayStation. No. There's that. The other thing I'm curious about is how many different versions of Call of Duty Black Ops 6 will they have? And could you get the base one on Game Pass? Will they still upsell you on the $20 to get the day one super edition and then the $100 edition, which I don't know if those are confirmed. I'm just saying those are, upsells that I'm sure they'll try to get people to do on these versions.
Yeah. I mean, I guess their calculus is that anybody who would not be interested in signing up for Game Pass to get this game is just going to buy it at full price anyway.
If you have an Xbox, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe they're just assuming they still will sell plenty of copies of this. But it is on both platforms, we should say. It is on PC and Xbox Game Pass both.
And on PlayStation.
Right. Yeah, of course, on PlayStation.
Yeah. They did not do the nuclear option.
It just won't be available on PlayStation Plus. It's not going to be your free game next month,
They should.
Yeah. But anybody on 2 out of the 3 platforms can just pay the $15 and play it at this point.
Yeah, which I wonder, I don't know. Yeah, I'm just so out of the Call of Duty ecosystem. That's not the carrot on the stick for me.
Yeah, actually, I wonder if Warzone kind of makes this whole discussion sort of moot.
I think Warzone's also, the last time I jumped in was in a weird place where
it kind of flatlined a little bit.
Well, they weren't supporting it as much. It felt like it had been left behind, and they were going to do a new one. So
yeah, maybe that's part of this. I don't know. I don't know what the split is. I don't know how much of what is free to play Call of Duty is what people want at this point versus the paid one.
So it got weird, and actually my brother is probably the one to ask because he was explaining it to me because, again, I'm not in this so much, but I guess some of the stuff you were getting in Warzone had now been separated out from the actual multiplayer in the latest Call of Duty. So the credits or whatever you get to buy in the battle pass would not go back and forth, cross the boundary anymore. They were kind of isolated in Warzone. I don't really fully understand it. I could be wrong. It was a while ago since we played. So I wonder too, Brad, I think you mentioned this off mic, but worth mentioning here too. This is going to be their special stream after their Sunday.
Yeah,
thing,
they have been when they announced the showcase, they were like, and we'll have a special like redacted like deep dive on a game after the showcase. I kind of assumed, I mean, it's hard to say I assumed it was Gear 6, like we can't assume that because they haven't announced that game yet, although the rumors are very strong. But it's not that, it's Call of Duty.
Yeah.
No offense to anyone working on Call of Duty, that's like the last game I need a deep dive on.
Yeah.
Specifically Black Ops 6, but maybe they throw in Warzone or bigger Call of Duty universe stuff in there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I get it. Huge audience, but
yeah,
it just feels like such a known quantity compared to some of the other things they could be showing. But we'll see how that showcase is.
That game still does really well in sales-wise.
Yeah.
So there are so many, for me personally, there's so many more interesting online competitive shooter stuff happening. Like, but like I played a lot of Warzone, and so that game Warzone continued to be interesting. I'll be curious to see academically and industry wise what is in Black Ops 6 narratively single player and what they're bringing into the multiplayer and how that ties into the gigantic Warzone-ish verse, Call of Duty verse.
The Duty verse.
The Duty verse. And if Microsoft adds anything weird into the mix, I mean, it's a little early, like for them to have put their thumb on anything at this point in development, because I'm sure not too much would have changed. This game is probably pretty close to finish by the time it all went through, but we'll see. We'll see pretty soon, actually, like 2 weeks. All right, that is Sony. That is Microsoft.
That's right, from one console war to another.
That's right. The third pillar in the consoles, of course, being Atari.
Man, I am slowly coming around to the new Atari, or maybe not so slowly.
TBD for me. They still have to do something.
Yeah.
So they haven't. They have done a lot by not doing anything horrendous.
Yeah, well, they did Atari 50, which was pretty awesome.
They did Atari 50
to be actually that is about the best thing I could ask for from somebody who is now the steward of Atari.
And they recently picked up Digital Eclipse, and now what have they got?
Now they got Intellivision. They bought Intellivision.
It doesn't sound any less ridiculous having heard this multiple times.
They bought the brand, they bought the Intellivision name and a bunch of their games, although maybe not all the games. I don't think they put out a list of which games they got.
They said 200, but they did not put out a list.
200 games, which I don't know, that might be most of the Intellivision games for all I know.
I tried to scroll down and look to see. So the press release doesn't have that much information on it. I mean, the stuff you just said, but doesn't go into details. And I haven't seen anybody reporting on how much was it. Where's Tommy Tallarico?
Yeah.
I guess the thing that is known is the Amico is did not come along with this.
No. So just for people who don't remember, the Intellivision brand is what the company producing the Amico console has been working under. So that's who the Atari bought these assets from. This is like the most passive aggressive thing I have ever seen in a corporate tweet. This is just the entire Atari tweet announcing we acquired the Intellivision brand and game library. This was a very rare opportunity to unite former competitors and bring together fans of the golden age of gaming. Wade Rosen, that's the CEO of current Atari. The former Intellivision will rebrand and continue distribution of the Amico console.
Good luck to you.
It's continued distribution in particular. Like, the thing's not even close to done. Like, is the thing ever coming out?
They
they will continue distributing this thing.
I think they pivoted to software. I think they got rid of the hardware at some point.
Well, they didn't get rid of it. It's still in development, supposedly.
Like they say, a hardware version may still come?
My understanding is they put out the mobile app as a way of like preparing the ground or getting something out while they're still trying to get the console finished.
Preparing the ground is a weird way to say salting the earth.
Amico Home is the name of that app, which it's not even out on iOS yet, I don't think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did watch months and months and months ago a video of somebody trying to do it, and it just sounded like to operate that thing because, again, I think I mentioned this at the time. The video I saw, the app runs, and then you use other phones as controllers, another device as a controller.
Yes. Part of this, I don't know if this was in the press release. This is in the Video Games Chronicle story. Atari has bought these Intellivision games, which they will now license back to the former Intellivision to use on the Amico.
Right. And just again, to be clear, if you're following the saga of the Tommy Tallarico stuff, he was owner of the Intellivision brand. I think he stepped down as CEO but retained his shares. And the person who is quoted in this article is Phil Adam, I think, is the CEO. There's nothing from Tommy in any of this.
Yes, I don't remember what the exact drama was that led to him stepping down.
I think it was like the Amico stuff.
Yeah, there's got to be more of a flashpoint than that, right?
No, that stuff got pretty bad.
Really? Was there not something else with him? I thought.
Well, I mean, he's been exposed several different ways, but there was that very long video that basically just like systematically destroyed every aspect of that man's career.
That's what I was talking about. I thought there was more that came to light about him, like kind of embellishing the truth about his career and stuff.
Yeah, like some stuff he said he composed, maybe he didn't actually, maybe he had been using proxies to do some of the stuff he said he composed, etc. Stuff like that.
The Roblox sound, the oof.
Yeah.
What was the video? Who was the person who did the video?
Was it H-Bomber guy that did it?
I think it was H-Bomber guy who did it, yeah.
I think that's right, yeah. Anyway, will the Amico ever come out? Who knows? But this is pretty amusing.
Will we get an Intellivision 50? Will we get was it game? Not Games with Gold.
The Gold Master Series.
Gold Master Series on the Intellivision.
Cool.
Now.
That would be cool. Yeah. I mean, Mike Micah is literally quoted here. Uniting Atari and Intellivision after 45 years ends the longest running console war in history. If anybody can get away with saying that in public, it's Mike Micah.
Yes, and not having it be a corny marketing thing. I feel like he's living it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm
not a big Intellivision fan.
No exposure to the Intellivision whatsoever.
Cool logo.
So I don't even know how valuable these games are.
I mean, when they were putting out those Intellivision collections, I'm sure enough people bought them that it was worth doing, but I don't know. Like, I feel like the reason you do this is because maybe you have larger aims of trying to build, let's just say, a WWE-style tape library, but for retro games that maybe are not under the Sony/Nintendo/Microsoft banner, and therefore you can just own them. Yeah,
retro stuff is big enough business these days that if that's how Atari pivots to just becoming some kind of
retro house.
Yeah, big umbrella brand for a bunch of old games that they didn't originally make, then sure.
It's not the worst thing in the world they could do with that brand by any stretch.
Also bring back Infogrames, apparently.
That I still don't get.
Atari owns them?
No, Atari was them.
Yeah, that was Atari.
Infogrames was Atari. Infogrames bought the Atari brand and became Atari.
After they went bankrupt, or after the crash?
Yes, so that's the corporate lineage to what we have now.
I see.
I believe, but they're bringing back the name, is my understanding.
Okay.
Finally, my Groms.
It's the worst name.
It's really bad.
You just want to say games. You just want to say Info Games.
Just say Info Games. I don't even think there is an Info Games.
It's just bad. It makes me second guess every time. Like, there's an extra R in there. Okay. It's bad.
Yes. Look, Infogrames rocks my world, okay?
No, they do not.
No.
If you haven't seen that video, you should go watch it.
I should go watch it. That is Atari buying up Intel. Maybe the Intellivision's huge in maybe it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, you don't understand. It blew up in Germany. It was huge. Like that's the one we had. I don't know. It's possible.
I don't know.
Those are fun pairings to learn about.
Where does the ColecoVision fit into all this?
I'm not sure. Like I think the Sega Master System was like gigantic in Brazil, for example.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't.
Was that
ColecoVision
something with like import pricing or?
I'm not sure.
I think in one of Drew's videos for Cloth Map, when he goes down there, he talks about it, which I can go check that out as well. By ColecoVision? I don't know.
What else is there?
Was that owned by CBS?
What other weird, obscure consoles could they just buy up the rights to?
There's the Magnavox Odyssey.
Mm-hmm. Okay. They probably all got bought by somebody.
I think that the Odyssey was first, right? I believe the Odyssey was the actual first console. Yeah, that's totally right.
Go get the CDI rights from Philips.
Yep.
Although I don't know that it did modular cartridges. That might not have been them. Anyway.
I had an Atari. I was an Atari household and a Commodore.
I found our 2600 last time I was home.
Heck yeah.
And all the games and the controllers, everything in a nice case. Well
was
preserved.
The controller still the rubber on it? Was it still good?
I don't remember if I actually pulled the controllers out or not.
Okay. I feel like those are the ones that like disintegrate and get funky.
Yeah, things were built to last back then. Unlike now.
Mm-hmm.
Like
all right.
I would just about bet money the rubber on my my launch DualSense has been worse shape than those Atari controllers.
Maybe. Sometimes that old rubber gets like sticky in a way.
Yeah.
There's a melty quality to it.
I can't remember what the material science is behind that, but there's some compound they use in rubber to kind of make it more plasticky or something like that seeps out over time. And I believe that can be accelerated by UV light. So like if you leave your controllers out in the sun, it'll happen faster.
Oh, gross.
Like in a window.
Yeah, gross. Do you remember those? Do you remember when VHSs were a thing and video stores were a thing? They would all have those signs like "Don't leave your VHS in your car on your dashboard," and they'd have like a picture. About that. Yeah, they'd have like pictures of like melted VHS tapes that are like oozing down people's things.
This could be you.
These things cost us $100 a piece. Please, God.
Please also rewind them. Be kind and rewind them, please. For the love of God, rewind your tape. Imagine renting a movie, and this has never really happened to me, I don't think, and putting it in, and it was like in the middle of a movie. That feels like such a weird violation at this point of like, my God, somebody's touched this and watched this halfway through.
We have to wait 5 whole minutes before we can watch this movie.
I have to put this in my Corvette rewinder, a dedicated Corvette style rewinder, and rewind it because I'm not going to waste the heads on my VCR. That's the news.
Yeah.
Don't put your Corvette rewinder on the dashboard of your Corvette either. That's Sony, of course, Sony, Microsoft, and Atari leading the charge there. Emails. We've got them. Podcast@nextlander.com. Podcast@nextlander.com. Brad Shoemaker, what's happening in Emailville?
How about an email from Tyler in Australia?
What about Tyler in Australia?
I am less than 2 months away from graduating to become a teacher. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Getting into a profession that will likely require me to move. I have one burning question. What do I do with all my video games?
What?
Currently, I have just over 500 physical video games in my collection.
Okay.
However, as much as I want to take them all with me, it is not viable.
What?
Since most of the games are discs, I thought of a potential solution, disc binders.
Okay.
It would allow me to keep most of my collection using only a fraction of the space. Some binders I've seen even include space for the cover and manuals. However, I still feel attached to even the plastic boxes. So I ask you, with extensive collections of video games and experience moving large distances, for advice. How do you feel about just keeping the discs in binders? Should I let go of the fabled box and keep the discs, keep only a few and get rid of the rest of the games? Or should I embrace my sickness and drag these games around for the rest of my life? I think you have your answer.
I think you know what. I think you put it right there. Yeah.
I think.
What else is there to say?
I like how you spent the entire email saying it's not possible to keep all of these, and then you're like, what if I kept them?
But what if you just do that?
500 games. You got one of those low profile under the bed frame style Tupperware, the plastic bin things. They're pretty shallow.
Yeah.
You could probably fit, I think on mine, maybe like 40, 50 games, 10 of those, and wrap them up, pay way more than you'd ever want to pay, and have them shipped to the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, what is the absolute smallest these could be in? Like CD jewel cases, right?
Unless he's got a bunch of PSP games or something.
But even a lot of those are going to be in DVD size cases.
Those PSP ones were skinny, weren't they? The slim.
Yes, they were tiny.
Yes, tiny.
Yeah, that 500 games is pretty big.
It's pretty big. I assume these were about the size of the DVD cases. That's hard to tote around. I'm like, I put all my movies and old PC game when I broke down my old big box PC games and put them in binders. It was tough. I had a tough time doing it. I had to cut apart those boxes, and I for a while I had put them in a collage and a framed thing on the wall, and then eventually I got rid of that. It's hard. We get over it. Binder with, if you can save the cover art, would be cool. And then I say
definitely,
and the manual and a slot for the manual, and then toss. Or if it's recyclable, recycle those plastic boxes. That's my 2 cents.
I can tell you this is the second time I've referenced this video on a podcast this week. Having just watched Masahiro Sakurai of Smash Brothers fame's video about his game collection, he threw out all the boxes.
I did watch that video.
You did?
I did. Yeah.
He put all his discs in binders, and with manuals and stuff. Right? I think he did keep all the cover art.
I think so, and I was mostly focused on the carts.
Yeah.
Do you mean to tell me that the guy who makes Smash Brothers is more concerned with having an amount of something than having a space for those things?
Look,
he just wants to have as many discs as possible and then make space for them.
Any psychoanalysis you want to do is your business.
But yeah, look, a pristine thing in the box, snapping open that box. Alex, you collect a lot of physical discs. What do you think here?
Okay, first of all my movies go into that big metal thing that I told you about with the sleeves. Yeah. I still have all my physical game boxes because I don't have that many physical. I mean, I have a lot of physical games, but like I'm not really adding to that collection for the most part.
And you're in a house now, and you don't have. You've done the move. You've
put it this
moved
way.
it.
All my boxed games that are console games that are not like Nintendo cartridges take up one shelf. It's a large shelf, but it takes up all of one shelf.
Yeah.
And I think that is enough for me, and I'm perfectly happy to stick with those. And if I add more games over time, maybe I'll get rid of some or whatever. But no, like if you don't have to get rid of the packaging, if it's not a space consideration, I say keep everything in as pristine condition as you can. If you can't, just keep the part that's important, which is the game itself.
I think I'd probably say if you can get rid of, I mean, it depends, again, what you're talking about. If it's Xbox, it's a little tougher, or Xbox 360, because those were kind of specific green DVD cases that I don't know if you could just buy those wholesale, but if they're the clear ones, you can probably get a lot of those later on if you ever want to rebuild, if you kept all the inserts and stuff and got rid of the boxes. But
yeah, it probably really comes down to how much you yourself value original packaging. Like if you've got the collector's bug, because there's tons of people out there who desperately want complete in-box original games these days.
Yeah.
Like if you feel like you're that type of person and are going to care at some point, then maybe do what you got to do to keep it all together. But if you just want the games around to play them, then those boxes probably can go.
If you think about the opposite end of where you are, if you take them all out of the boxes, put them in a binder, and you use some kind of reseller, like an eBay-esque thing, somebody on the other end is like, man, I wish I just had 300 empty Xbox boxes, and maybe somebody will pay you to take those off your hands and pick them up because you might be in that position 10 years from now and be like, I wish I just had 100 Xbox boxes. That's a tough one. I take them with you.
Take them with you. Take everything with you. Never get rid of anything.
Never. You know what you have to do. Brad, any more emails?
Here's one from Kurt in Mississauga, Ontario. Vinny has explained that Nextlander doesn't turn on mid-roll ads for YouTube videos, but sometimes other folks will make a copyright claim which can lead to ads showing up.
This is true.
I have a two-part question for when this happens. Number one, is there any claim process that you can go through to reclaim that video to clear the ads? Or is that just the way it is for that particular video? There are things you can do.
You can dispute it.
Yeah, you can dispute it. You can also depending on what it is, you could also like go, if it's just audio, for example, you can mute that out.
Yes.
That happened with the first Fallout video that I did recently. Like the 2 minutes of licensed intro music during the intro of that game was enough to get the entire video demonetized, or like it was monetized by the copyright holder, right?
It depends. There's varying levels of things. Usually when it's demonetized, it means that it's demonetized for you, yes.
Right.
And then they can insert as many ads as they want.
Okay, that's exactly the second part of his question. Number 2, if a video can't be reclaimed, what's your opinion on patrons like myself ripping the videos from YouTube and saving it for offline use? Maybe I put it on my Plex server and watch it that way. Would that affect your business in any way? Is that a particularly uncool thing to do? Over the course of a 2-hour video, ads getting aggressively inserted every 6 minutes can really become a bit much.
It sucks.
Yeah, it does suck.
It blows.
YouTube ads have gotten tremendously invasive.
It's the reason we never put mid-roll ads on. One, thank you for being a patron, because that allows us to not have to monetize the YouTube channel to high heaven.
Yes, for sure. I was going to say, not only thank you for being a patron, but even if you weren't a patron, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to do with publicly accessible YouTube videos. If you want to rip them, that's your business.
Yeah, that's your business. I don't think we could take a stance on that because of whatever YouTube's, we don't want anybody's accounts to get banned, or,
that's not a danger.
But, look, do whatever you want on that stuff. It's, the YouTube stuff is mostly for putting up and publicly showing our stuff outside of, it's a distribution platform. We're not making our living off of the YouTube stuff. That stuff, YouTube stuff has gotten interesting in some ways where some creators will just allow rev sharing, where they will split revenue with you on certain things. And it seems like, in my mind, only the cooler people do that, where they're like, look, our music is in here. It'd be cool if we got some of this. I'm like, yeah, sure. That's great. The worst ones are people who just fully block a video because you had 2 seconds of a song in there and then block it from all territories. Those are the ones I will highly dispute. And then the ones that I will dispute also are things like Summer Games Fest is coming up. And if we're covering Summer Games Fest, that is an advertising block for those companies. And I will dispute that as this was covered to basically rebroadcast a commercial for you.
This is bullshit. We are literally doing marketing for you by promoting this thing.
Is it? I assume we're a long way from the days of like just rampant copyright strikes, right? Like I assume it's a lot harder to get a strike these days.
So on the dispute side, as far as I know, and again, we're not super YouTube ecosystem people. There are people who live in this world and they might know way more than we do. They definitely do. But if you dispute a claim and it comes back not in your favor, if you escalate that, you run the risk of a strike.
I see. Okay.
If you now push it into a human arbiter's hands, somebody to look at it, basically when you're disputing a strike, it goes back to the rights holder. In most cases, they have 30 days to respond to either lift or to say, no, we're going to keep this. If they don't respond in 30 days, it gets lifted, the ban. If they say, no, we're going to keep this, you can push it further, and then you run the risk of getting a strike.
At some point, Google's going to be like, no, fuck you.
At some point, YouTube might say, no, like, look, you want to go to court and pay a lawyer and be the first case to have a fair use case go to Supreme Court to say what is fair use in this climate. God bless you, and don't ruin it for all of us. I would not be the one, as much as I think fair use should be better defined, would not want to escalate it in the current legal climate, let's say.
Yeah. And then the distinction to be made in the YouTube world, correct me if it's not still this way, but the distinction is between a claim and a strike. Like a claim is when they say, hey, we own part of that material, you shouldn't get to get paid for it. A strike is like a permanent mark on your record, and enough strikes can lead to your channel getting shut down. Is that still the case?
I don't know if they're permanent, but I think it's if you accrue enough strikes in a certain amount of time.
They do expire. Okay.
Yeah. And again, we don't live in that world. We generally, if something is just demonetized, we'll generally just let it float through. It's when it gets blocked that we and you can't watch the video. So yeah, if you do see a bunch of ads peppered in, it's usually because somebody has made a claim on something. And the annoying part is most of our videos are like 2 hours long, and it's like a minute and a half of something, or such a low percentage. And when we make the claim, the dispute, we're like, look, this is a fair use because we're doing editorializing, we're doing this, or it represents such a small percentage of the actual work that if you took it out would not significantly change the work. which again, my understanding of fair use is part of that. But sometimes people are just like, no, just keep an eye.
Yeah, it sucks. It's
not a system made in favor of the user.
No.
The uploader. But, look, there are small creators out there that also, on the other side of the thing, get their stuff. Just look at what happens in AI, right? This stuff just gets soaked up. So protections do need to be in place. It's a complicated system. I just wish there were a more complicated answer than complete algorithm sniffing that you used. I don't want to set the world on fire for 2 seconds in your Fallout video or something.
That's pretty much what it was.
Yeah.
So in the example of the Fallout thing, if they claim your video, you can't just say, hey, I just want to not monetize this. Like, no, they get to monetize it whether you like it or not.
I'm pretty sure even on non-public unlisted videos, if it sniffs, the algorithm sniffs that this is a non-monetized unlisted video, it can still be monetized. I think. I'm not sure. Like when we do patron videos that go up unlisted, it still needs to clear the algorithm. I think. I'm not 100% sure. Because it does go up faster if you do not monetize, and I'm not sure if it's running through checks. There's a lot of stuff on the YouTube backend that is funky, man. Like
they do still run checks. Not to turn this into YouTube hour, they do still run checks on unmonetized, because I put up the Ramblecast video every week, and that's got monetization explicitly disabled, and it still runs,
it does like running checks.
It still does 20-30 minutes of checks.
Okay, yeah, those checks take a while. You also do this whole questionnaire, which is always funny, of like, did you curse? What level of cursing have you done?
Yeah, I just defy blindly without even thinking. I click the lowest level of cursing and move on these days.
So the only videos I do that on every one of our videos, the first level of cursing. The only one that I ever had to go in and be like, yeah, there's some other stuff in here, were cyberpunk videos where it's like, there is some other stuff. There's some explicit boning happening in this. This is moderate to extreme boning happening in this video. Video games do not... Their language has gotten better over the years, so they do include some video game stuff language in there, but sometimes it's hard to be like, does your video show like graphic violence? Like, okay, is this video game violence, graphic violence? I'm not sure. It's what happens when everything gets consolidated into one mega thing, right?
Yep, it's a mess out there.
It's a mess out there.
I almost, with that Fallout video, I finally got around to starting to archive audio to separate tracks. So I have
edit it later.
Mic audio and game audio on separate tracks in post, and I almost went back and just muted that 2 minutes without muting my voice and put it back up, but did not quite go that far, because that's weird too. Then I'm sitting there talking over nothing, and that's probably also a strange viewing experience. I don't know.
So I've had that on some other videos where, like I said, like press conference stuff, where I get so mad that somebody will not release a claim on that, and I have the separate tracks, that I will replace it with the worst music possible for that, like the dumbest, the worst music, and I'll put a banner up there that says they would not release the claim. This is not their original music, and I will write in the thing and be like, I literally write in the claim thing, we'd rather represent your product in the way you wanted it to be represented than to have to either cut it out or do it. And, sometimes it's not even going to the video game person. I'm sure it's going to the music catalog or somebody.
Like the great-grandchild of whoever recorded that song or whatever.
Or some, we talked about it before, maybe some private equity company that bought up the catalog, right?
For sure. You've inspired me. Because now, next time this happens, I just realized how trivial it would have been to go find just the Ron Perlman narration from that and match it to the video without the music.
Put it over something else that's royalty free.
I could have just done that and actually recreated the experience, and now I wish I had.
Put it over you humming the like I usually try to tag it so people know that, like, what the hell is going on here. But there was one during a press conference when we were at Nextlander that I was like, you're really not going to release this? That I was like, fine. I'm just going to go through my library and find some royalty garbage and free garbage and put it underneath it. Some of it's gotten a little bit better with there's another option there where you can mute the whole segment. You can try and ask it to take the voices out and mute it underneath algorithmically. I don't know how it never really worked well enough for me to use it, and it takes the video offline while it does that, and it takes a long time. So anyway, that's a lot of YouTube talk.
Yeah, it sure is.
look, a lot of people spend time on YouTube. And I would like people to know that if you're hitting a bunch of ads, because I've seen this from friends who've come at me and be like, dude, I hit like 27 ads. Like, sorry, that's not us.
It's gotten intense, man. I watch a lot more YouTube these days. Ads have gotten crazy.
I'm sure they want people to go to YouTube Prime or whatever it is. YouTube
Premium, I think it is. But they just upped the price on that to $14 a month also. So they're squeezing it on both ends.
Do you get live TV for that? Or is that a separate thing?
No.
Okay.
You're talking about YouTube TV is a separate service from the just ad-free YouTube.
Okay. So you'd have to pay a different price for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, YouTube, Google. Yeah. They're a small company. They can use the support.
Yeah. We're just helping them out.
Yeah.
Remember when YouTube was a separate company?
Barely?
Barely.
I think they only existed independently for 18 months or 2 years or something like that.
I think it was enough where I feel like we all know somebody who was there and then they got bought out. One of our coworkers at GameSpot had a close friend who was a very early YouTube hire who didn't work anymore after YouTube got bought. I want to say they also had the opportunity to go there and was like, nah, I'm not moving now.
You live in the Bay Area long enough, you will run into a lot of stories like that.
Yeah.
Somebody who almost went to a company that, yes.
I was almost employee 20 or the other, I was employee 21 and employees 1 through 20 got, stopped.
I just thought of somebody else from GameSpot in that situation. It was literally the first hire that got no equity.
Yes. A lot of those stories too. All right. Any more emails or that's it?
Let's call it there.
Okay. That's the email address, podcast@nextlander.com. I want to say again before we go, there are so many other people that know so much more about YouTube because I run across them making YouTube videos about YouTube. And there's been so much going on recently with a bunch of creators that I only know because they keep coming up as people trying to make noise against some of the algorithm stuff that's happening. And calling out how terrible some of the algorithm stuff is there. So I don't come to us for how to run YouTube or what's going on there. I just want to claim ignorance on a lot of that stuff. That's the email address, podcast@nextlander.com. We've got a lot going on the old Nextlander website. Let's say on the old site. Starting with the Watchcast. We are deep in Twin Peaks right now. We have watched half of our next episode, and we'll be watching the other half tomorrow. Did you watch it yet, Brad?
And I almost watched it last night. Coming off that first half of recording that, I was like, it's Tuesday night, it's the video game night, I have to play stuff for the podcast, I have to get ready for the podcast, I can't spend my time watching episode 8 of Twin Peaks The Return as much as I would like to do that.
I'm watching it tonight.
So I will watch it tonight. But
I want live updates from you guys.
Let's not make too big a thing out of it now.
Apparently, this is the greatest event in TV history.
Let's
I just want to know how you feel.
So for those who don't know, in the Watchcast, basically, we've been notified without any spoilers, really, that the episode we're coming up on is an episode of consequence, or at least warrants a kind of focused discussion on it. So we've split the recording. We do 2 episodes of recording. We split this throughout the week so we can record one half and then the other half. And I'm very curious to see what this all means and why this. But that'll be next week as we continue our Twin Peaks season 3 extravaganza or watching.
Even without the preamble, I would if I hadn't heard a word about episode 8, I'd still really be ready to see it because enough stuff happens in 7. It feels like the table is set for some things to pop off regardless.
I'm going to give you this piece of advice. The same thing I said to Vinny when we were talking about this earlier. Just let it wash over you.
I'm relaxing my body.
Just roll with it. That's all I got to say.
I'm ready for it. That's the Watchcast stuff going on over on the Patreon side of things. We have a Never Been a Better podcast that is still up there, and in fact, all of them are still up there. If you want to go check those out, obviously we have the Ramblecast over there on the Patreon. I'll say for the next Never Been a Better podcast, the one coming up for June, since it's top of mind right now, I'm trying to schedule the recording for it. That one might be coming a little later. A lot of people are out and around for Summer Games Fest. Some people are taking vacations in the summer, trying to get a schedule that works for the recording, but that might come a little bit later in June, just a heads up. Trying to get people together and figure it all out there. But that's over on the Patreon side. And if you didn't know, like if we didn't hear it enough from us during this lead up to it, that's what keeps us going over there. Your support, that Patreon support, it makes us able to do what we do on the monetization side on YouTube and not have to put too many bells and whistles on the Twitch side of things and like make fart sounds and alerts when people support us there, and bless the people who do. And it's just a thing that I think we just don't know how to do well. So thank you very much for supporting us on the Patreon side of stuff. If you'd like to go support us, you can go to patreon.com/Nextlander, where we have a bunch of different tiers there. You can find a tier that is right for you. One tier there gets their name right on this here podcast. It's the Mysterious Benefactors tier, and I'm going to read those names right now. Starting with Sean Miller, RRE, Infelicitus Rips, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deidre and the Laser Eyes, Gary Pejke, Robert Fisher, Bunny Fiend, Jad Rita, Statics, Fantastichasm89, Razgriz2, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiebkin, Alex Wu, It's Me JP, Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese. Those are our Mysterious Benefactors for this week, and thanks again to them. We know. You got a lot of choices out there. You could be supporting a lot of different things. Like we just said, everybody's asking you to do a subscription. We know it's tough out there, and we thank you for flying with Nextlander. You have a lot of choices out there. And we thank you for flying with us.
And we know we're the best.
And we know you've chosen the best, and you know it.
Our doors don't fall off.
Not all the time.
I didn't entirely go out of my way to achieve this. Maybe I did a little bit, but I have successfully managed not to fly Boeing to or from LA next week.
Wow. It kind of happened, or were you aware as it was happening?
There only one leg of one of the fares I was looking at even was Boeing to begin with.
Okay.
It was not the only reason I didn't select that fare, but it didn't hurt.
Well, you're not bouncing around. You're taking a direct flight.
No, it's
right?
direct. It's direct.
Okay, I was going to say that's a lot of one leg bopping around. Well, we're going to Nebraska first, coming back.
No, I mean just different fares I was looking at across
Gotcha.
different airlines or different planes, but I feel like it's been a fair amount of Boeing planes, United ones out of San Francisco that have been dodgy. I don't know.
But here at Nextlander, we do it with your support. And
That's right.
We appreciate it, and thank you again.
Nothing but the friendly skies around here.
That's right, the friendliest of skies. Speaking of friendly skies, or I don't know, maybe hostile skies, Alex and I went back and we made everyone suffer again. Reed and Songbird suffer again in the Phantom Liberties DLC for Cyberpunk. If you want to see everyone gets real sad again, we did one path last time, and then most recently we went down the other path. So we did the alternative ending there. You can go check it out over from Monday. The archive should be up. This Thursday, I'm getting back together with Abby, and we're going to be heading back into Tex Murphy, and you can check that out, Killing Moon. That'll be on Thursday, and then after that, we'll be coming back. Brad and Alex and I will be doing the talk over for what we said before, the state of play for Sony. And then Friday, Patron's Choice. Poll is up.
Yes.
Poll is up. Last I looked at it, looked like people like trucking.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked.
I thought we were going to see some Dragon Warrior.
I might have just bought an eye tracking thing.
Which one? Track IR?
No, the other one.
What's the other one?
What is it, like the Toby thing?
I don't know.
I've heard that for certain setups that thing works really great, and for others it works terribly.
Okay.
I've been wanting to try it, so I'm just going to try it.
Great. Do you have to wear a trucking hat for it? Does it clip on your hat?
I think it's literally just a bar that goes on the top of your monitor.
Oh, is that one track eyeballs?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's not the track IR style stuff.
Yes. Got it. All right. Well,
we'll see how it goes.
Yes. I will warn you. I mean, I'm sure you'll test it all out if it comes in time for this, if this wins. And sometimes that stuff on the viewing end can get a little jittery and weird.
Oh, I know. I'm going to try it out before I put anything on stream. Don't you worry.
You've seen me use the Track IR one where you're like, I can't watch this, Vinny. You're moving your head too much.
I'm going to turn the sensitivity as far down probably as I can, because you know me, I'm a little jittery.
Yeah, right, yeah. But it'd be cool to see what you're looking at with your eyeballs.
I'm looking at everything at all moments, at all times.
I have thought about that one too for the flight sim stuff. That particular one as well. People had, again, good things to say when it works. Well, you could check that out or go vote to see what happens over there. The other option we were talking about, just so you know, listening, was Brad was going to load his old saves up for Dragon Warrior and try 1 and 2.
Actually, in the poll, I ended up listing like I'll try several of them and see if I can finish a couple. And I rattled off Zelda 2, Dragon Warrior, Ocarina of Time.
Okay,
those are 3. I've got a bunch of them. I'd finished most of these games at that time, so I've got a bunch of saves where I could just kind of go straight to the end and try to beat it. Hey,
if it doesn't win, we could always come back to it.
It's true. It's true. I spent
lost but not forgotten.
I spent a whole 90 seconds workshopping a name for this feature.
It was good. It was a lollers,
load our last lawfully extracted ROM save.
Yes, very good. You know what? I was thinking of when I talked before about putting my saves in a folder, then losing the folder, and I was like, well, what should I name this folder? Lawfully extracted ROM saves is not a bad name for naming that folder. I named it physical cartridge saves and dumps.
All right,
but that's much better.
That works.
And anyway,
I'll say real quick, the cart dumping continues. I've only come to 2 carts that lost their saves so far.
Oh, okay.
And they are both the Zelda Oracle of Ages and Seasons games, which are basically the same game.
And when you say lost their saves, you have a save file, it's just empty?
Battery's dead. Like, there's nothing. I reviewed those games, so I absolutely had saves on there.
Yeah.
But there's nothing there. And I tried starting a new game, saving, turning it off and back on, and there's no data. So it's definitely a dead battery. But anyway, like, it's like a pretty impressive failure rate. Like, GBA games, Game Boy Color, like Metal Gear for Game Boy Color, Link's Awakening DX.
Jeez.
Like, most of even the Game Boy Color games still have saves.
Okay.
Like, practically everything I've tried has had data.
Now you can share those saves with everybody too. That's right. You can share. It's like giving a piece of you to the internet.
Everybody can join Sir Dude in his quest to defeat the Dragon Lord.
That's right. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Brad, Sir Dude. Appreciate it. We'll be back next week.